We'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everybody. If you've got your cell phones, please put them on silent or turn them off. And now I'd like to take a minute of silent prayer, please. Okay, thank you. I want to welcome you again, and everybody's watching. Next item is roll call. I'll start with Commissioner Stephen. Here. Commissioner Mike Smith is here. Commissioner Doe? Here. Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Mr. Culberson? Here. Everybody's present. Public comment. I have one. Is it Christine Workman? I saw you back there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Got 5 minutes, and you tell us what your address is, and then have at it, please.
All right. Thank you so much for the chance to speak with you today. I'm here to remind you what an egregious thing it would be to delegate your taxing authority, either directly or indirectly, to anyone not elected. But first, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for your service. I pray for each of you regularly, and you occupy affectionate spaces in my heart as I've gotten to know you the last couple of years, one in particular. You had a special place. But I'm here to talk about the Port Authority. The first time I heard of the Leavenworth County Port Authority was several years ago. Like most people, my initial response was to give a little chuckle at the idea of a port authority in a town with no harbor and a county with no port city. Foolishly, it never occurred to me until very recently to wonder where the Port Authority gets its money. I've since learned that that money comes from me and my hardworking husband and you and everyone paying taxes to Leavenworth County. $85,000 a year, apparently, and now I hear they wish to establish a tax levy all their own. Suddenly, I'm not chuckling anymore. Having discovered my newfound stake in this organization, I became quite curious. What exactly does a port authority in a county with no harbor do with $85,000 tax dollars a year? Naturally, I visited the Leavenworth County Port Authority website to investigate. There I found the organization's summary of its purpose, what I can only describe as bloviated prattle. I knew there was trouble from the first sentence, where the LCPA identifies itself as a quasi-governmental agency. To me, that giant red flag says, I'm kind of like the government, but with less accountability. However, I did keep reading through the next two paragraphs. My interpretation of what this organization does, in short, is to act like a real estate agent for the sale of industrial property. The homepage reads, as economic development moved away from barge rail importance, the organization adapted itself to serve additional economic development needs of the community. The Port Authority doesn't really specify what economic needs it adapted itself to meet. To serve the economic development needs of the community or to serve the economic development needs of a few business owners, I don't know. Under whose authority does a taxpayer-funded organization adapt itself anyway? The website goes on to state the Port Authority owns 2 industrial parks and plays a role in land property sales. Do the taxpayers earn a commission on those sales? Does the LCPA charge rent at its industrial parks? If so, does that money go back to the taxpayers? Here's a sentence I found particularly confusing. The LCPA has played a role in nearly 1,000 jobs in Leavenworth County and more than $117 million in property valuation or announced capital investment. The LCPA doesn't say it played a role in creating 1,000 jobs, but even if it did, 1,000 jobs over the course of the 55 years it's been operating means only about 18 jobs per year. $117 million in property valuation and announced capital investment. Does that mean they purchased $117 million worth of property? Where is the revenue generated from that investment? Please help me get to the bottom of these unanswered questions. I truly mean this when I say they're not rhetorical. I would love to know the answers to these questions. I may be in the fringy minority with this statement, but I don't believe that it's the government's constitutional role to bring jobs or development to a community, just merely to keep out of the way of that happening. However, here's the most important thing I have to say. $85,000 tax dollars a year being funneled into a few select businesses with no measurable benefits to the taxpayer looks very bad to me. We are all overtaxed as it is. But what's more, as the Leavenworth County Port Authority continues to grapple with justifying its own relevance at our expense, I implore you to condemn the notion that it be allowed to tax the people of Leavenworth and seriously consider defunding the Port Authority completely. If you can't reclaim that money, then at least regularly hold them to account for it. The board members for that quasi-governmental agency are not elected, and taxation without representation doesn't bode well in this country. I believe that meets the definition of tyranny, and I had my first taste of it when I wasn't allowed to complete their opinion survey they sent out asking what I thought of letting them tax me. I wasn't allowed to complete the survey. I usually try to dress a bit more professionally for my civic engagement, but I'd like to point out to you that I'm wearing my new favorite sweatshirt today. It says, "I like my coffee black and my tea in the harbor." Please help us all avoid having to toss the metaphorical tea into our fictitious harbor. I don't think our quasi-port authority has adapted itself to deal with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
Appreciate your comments.
Chairman,
Yes.
can you put all those questions in writing and send them to us in an email?
I sure will.
And we will get them to the Port Authority and try to get them to answer those.
I sure will do that. And then just for your reference, I did send an email when I wanted to sign up for public comment, didn't get a response, and then I found out the email goes to your junk box. So I will send that message to you for sure, but be on the lookout in your spam folder.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the only one I show for public comment. We will go on to administrative business. Mark, do you have anything?
Yeah, Commissioners, I did want to say that last week was the Employee Appreciation Day, and recognize that Commissioner Reed actually provided pizza for all the locations in the county for the staff, and I wanted to thank her for that, and I know the staff really appreciated it. Thank you.
Okay. I think I had one more in the audience I didn't recognize. Sir, you want
It's not too much trouble.
to come right on up? That's what we're here for.
Steve Vernon, Stranger Township. I thank the Commission for their time. I have 3 requests for the Commission and 1 invitation. First, it's County Road, Fairmount County Road, speed limit is still 35 miles an hour, long since it's been paved. There can only be one reason for that. I myself been pulled over when I was checking beehives and baser, and the only reason I didn't get a ticket for that was the deputy was scared he'd get stung. Please consider changing the speed limit on Fairmount to 50 miles per hour for the entirety of the lane. Second, Chuck McGaha addressed our group, Rural Leavenworth Incorporated, just this week, and he made the comment that there are 5 alert warning sirens on Fort Leavenworth. Those sirens were paid for with Leavenworth County taxpayer money. Leavenworth County taxpayers are currently paying for the maintenance and upkeep of those sirens. It's long been a concept of mine that people that use things ought to pay for them. Third, as you consider economic development later on today, I would encourage you to take a look at how we service 3 of the largest employers in the county. Okay, largest employer in the county is Fort Leavenworth. The Rolling W has a reserve center just off 20th Street. When I was in Kansas Guard, I recall that there was a field artillery company in Atchison, and there are numerous forts in Leavenworth County. There is no specific business like a Ranger Joe's or anything to sell surplus military equipment, boots, uniforms, that sort of thing to those folks who are currently working in the county. Last thing, I would like to invite Commissioner Dove to a meeting at the Tonganoxie Library on 5 May. The Stranger Township Council will be addressing Rural Leavenworth Incorporated about the role and functions of Township Council. The Stranger Township Fire Department is currently attempting to get smoke and CO2 detectors from the state of Kansas, and if they do, those will be available to be handed out during that meeting. Subject to your question.
No, we're fine. Very good. Thank you, sir.
I had one thing.
Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
Since Bill's in the audience, or Mark, you guys know off the top of your head what the last cost was for an engineering study to raise the speed limit on a gravel road that we paved? Just off the top of your head. I was going to say $150,000.
Commissioners, the last one we did was the Tonganoxie Industrial Park for 222nd Street and Kansas Avenue. It has a very short stretch of roadway, approximately 3/4 of a mile or maybe a mile of roadway, and it was $7,200, I believe, just to do that short stretch of roadway. So I know we had received some pricing on some other roads previous to my employment, which I think you're referring to, and that was in 2018. And I believe they were over $120,000 was the cost estimate for those roads that were going to be studied at that time. In order to do a speed limit study, you do have to look at the line of sight of every driveway, your shoulders, your clear zones, and your current existing speeds. So the topography aspect of that is what ends up taking the most amount of money because it requires field surveying work to be completed in many cases to measure the sight triangles at every turning point.
Okay.
Are we legally required to do those surveys?
We are so there's state statute. I don't have them here to quote today, but there are state statutes that state that you can, without a engineering study, reduce speed limits. But then that contradicts a secondary state statute that states that you follow the MUTCD guidelines as an engineer in the state of Kansas, and that MUTC guideline says you will do an engineering study. And so within the Kansas statutes, there are contradicting language disparities that state you don't have to, and then clearly state that you do have to. It is adopted by the Secretary of Transportation. So at this point, it is very clear engineering standard that you should complete for liability purposes a traffic engineering study for all speed limits.
I just like to state those statute numbers so people don't think we're making it up and they can research it more easily by themselves.
I can state that.
We can get that.
I can get it to you very easily. I can
Okay.
probably have it to you by the end of administrative business because I've just looked these up very recently.
Because a lot of people don't like surveys and they feel like, why don't we have the capacity to figure out what it should be and all that? But if we're legally required to do it a certain way, then we're bound by that. So.
Well, it's an engineering study. You have to figure out if a driveway is too close,
Yeah.
line of sight distance. Did you catch all that, Steve? Because Steve brought up a good question a lot of people I get. Why don't we raise the speed limit on a gravel road that we now pay? Did you hear all that, Steve, that we talked about?
Yes,
So
sir.
a couple $100,000 study you have to do to raise the speed limit. But here's the thing. You do the study, you pay a couple $100,000. Doesn't mean you'll raise the speed limit. It's just to find out if you can. Half the time, you do these studies, and you can't raise the speed limit because there's too short a distance line of sight driveways or not shoulder, et cetera, et cetera. So
I would say the majority
That's
of
the
cases
short
you would
answer.
find from a speed limit study that you need to reduce the rest of the speed limit to match the lower speed limit on the roadway.
yeah, and that's the
It's-
third option that I was going to bring up. Sometimes you end up lowering the speed on the adjacent roads that it's connected to. So,
If I could,
mhm.
that is not a residential area. It's not a business area. It's strictly a rural area. $700,000 is a lot of money. That's true. Having said that, every other county road that's paved has a speed limit of 50 miles per hour. The 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, again, and I've had several deputies tell me this, was based on the time when that was a gravel road, and I've lived in Leavenworth County now for almost 28 years, and I don't believe I've ever seen any portion of Fairmount Road be gravel.
Commissioners, we actually have
Okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
paved roads that are 35, 40-mile-an-hour speed limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
we
a lot.
have probably 75 or 80 miles that are 35 miles an
Yeah,
hour.
and that's the reason that it's 35 is because it was once a gravel road. So to raise it, you got to spend $100,000 just to see if you can, and sometimes you still can't.
I feel your sentiment, though. So.
Yeah,
And Commissioner,
that's why I wanted to bring that up because we get this a lot. Why don't you guys raise the speed limit? Well,
And this has come up before on many different occasions, and we have cited these statutes.
yes, and I'll in a couple minutes, if I can get into my email, I was trying to pull it up currently. I just recently researched all of that for some proposed state legislation that someone had asked some questions about. So I have that in my email readily available. If I can get my email to open, we can come back to that topic if you want those statute numbers.
Thank you.
On my agenda.
Thank you, Bill.
Are some, excuse me, Bill, are some of those statutes, in your opinion, outdated or should have been changed? when we change the actual road, the surface of the road?
The service of the road doesn't necessarily, without the proper design, what has occurred a lot of times in Leavenworth County is we've improved roadways surface type from gravel to hard surface without doing any geometric improvements.
You can cut the hill.
Engineering studies, so we haven't ever studied the line of sight or the roadway like the dust abatement projects that were recently completed that were designed in 2017 and 18 and built in 2021. There was 42 miles of roadway that was hard surfaced without any engineering design for true roadway improvement. And without that, the secondary information that cost a lot of money to ascertain, you can't change the speed limit. So those roadways, all 42 miles, remain 35 miles an hour. Some of them are non-posted, actually don't have a speed limit posted on them. So speed limits are an issue statewide. Honestly, what would make the most sense for Leavenworth County is if the state had adopted 2 or 3 years ago, there was proposed legislation to reduce all unimproved or gravel roadways to 35 miles an hour. That was heavily opposed from western Kansas counties because there are a multitude of counties that have no paved roads or very few paved roads in western Kansas. And they actually have gravel roads posted at 65 miles an hour in Trego County. And so where 35 miles an hour with our topography and our road type and our situation here in Leavenworth County would be appropriate, it may not work for western Kansas. So what would be the most appropriate, in my opinion, is if they made it a local decision regarding like a state statute that made it the local authority have the ability to set the speed limit for gravel roadways as a blanket speed limit without a study at 35 miles an hour. But that
Novel idea of local control.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
Yeah, and I can get you those statutes if I can get my email.
Thank you, Bill. All righty. Mark, did you have anything else? Okay, Commissioner Stephen, you have anything?
Someone in the audience is raising their hand. Chairman,
Who?
Come on up.
you raise your hand. Yeah, you.
Raise your hand, you get stuck.
Looking at me? Brian Kellogg, High Prairie Trustee, 24532 Tonganoxie Drive, Leavenworth, Kansas. I'm here to help answer any questions that council or the board may have regarding the agenda item today of authorizing High Prairie Township to be removed from the fire district. There were some concerns. We have entered that petition on January 17th. It was certified and okayed on January 24th, and I'm concerned why we are just now hearing it today, along with Lansing, where we knew that Lansing provided their information way after ours. We are disputing the amount that has been contractually obligated to us. Currently, this board signed us into a contract that we never got to see. And Commissioner Dove, Commissioner Rita, you weren't a part of that, but so I'm just trying to bring everything up to date. The board became the fire district board when it dissolved. When Lansing decided to pull out, Delaware and High Prairie chose to remain, and then we went through the dissolution process. We were told we couldn't speak in front of this board until the assets were dissolved. Those assets were dissolved. We were still not heard. We, by counsel, her predecessor, kept telling us that we had to incorporate or enlist the help of legal counsel. We did. So, to Mike Stevens' point, how much money has been spent to date on legal counsel? Well, we didn't want to spend any, but we had to. And we had to bring lawsuits just to get the ball rolling. So I'm here to answer any questions or clear the air on any kind of confusion. But right now, there has been roughly 33 calls. You have the chief of Lansing right here that could probably answer exactly how many calls have been made out in the High Prairie Township, along with Delaware Township and within the city of Lansing. And I'd like you to look at the financial impact that has on High Prairie per call. Right now, you're requesting that we pay $36,000 a month for this fire protection. as of January 1, we were ready to roll on our own. This board made the decision that we were not capable of providing our own fire protection, and I've never received any kind of assessment that was done by this board to make that determination. No one reached out to me. No one reached out to our full-time chief. No one asked any questions. The decision was just made. It was told to us that the board didn't want to be a part of this, but they chose to take part, and because it was their obligation to do so, because of the situation they were presented December 31st of 2024. In doing so, I think they made a rash decision in entering into an agreement with Lansing, one entity of the district. Didn't see or hear of any bids from any other municipalities that could have probably provided the same type of assistance. If not, our primary respondents to most calls in High Prairie, which is the city of Leavenworth, don't know if they were reached out to obtain a bid for that same type of protection. I've asked for that per core regulation. Haven't received anything on that, and I don't know if there is any documentation to be presented for that because it may not even occurred. So right now we have a fire board that's in charge of a district that has no tax levies, that is requesting High Prairie use the money that it set aside, $433,000 for fire protection, which we could utilize for our own fire protection with our own chief, our own staff. We're even more equipped than the current entity that you're asking to protect us. That doesn't seem right, does it? If you say it out loud, it just doesn't seem right. So any questions that you may have, I'll be sitting right here. I'll be more than happy to answer anything that you may have. And I really think that you should probe into that a little bit more before trying to, because I'm going to stand here and tell you, I will do everything in my power to push against that $34,000 to $36,000 a month fee that we were pushed into, that we had no say at the table or have enough opportunity to negotiate prior to the signing of that contract. And we had we didn't sign. They signed the contract. We did not sign the contract.
Okay.
So that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Brian.
And I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on here. Mike, do you have anything for them?
I was wondering and asked the board if it's possible if we could change our meeting to Tuesday next week. I have a railroad required federal exam I have to take on Wednesday morning. So if that's not a problem, I did check with the county administrators. Didn't think there was any conflict with any of our zoning issues. That works for everybody else?
Today. I cannot be here then. I'm here.
Oh, you couldn't be there then?
I can't be here next Tuesday.
Okay, well, that doesn't work. I just wanted to put it out there.
I can't hear you back here. It sounds like you're whispering.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine, Mike. And I got a Port Authority, so I couldn't do it either.
On Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all right.
Anything else, Mike?
The only other thing is I did want to address an issue with our counselor. When we made the decision to contract with the city of Lansing, we asked council here, yourself and previous council, a question. And the question that we asked was, if we do not adopt this agreement, can we be assured that fire protection would be provided for High Prairie Township? The answer we received from council at that time was no, we could not be assured that fire protection would be provided for High Prairie Township, and then we entered into the agreement with Lansing for the temporary provision of fire protection. Is that, can you reflect on that opinion that was offered to the commission?
Well, Commissioner, you are restating what occurred at that meeting. You did ask the question. Mr. Van Paris did say, no, we could not be assured that fire protection services would be offered. This comes on the tails of the lawsuit that was filed where High Prairie sought a writ of mandamus and declaratory judgment seeking the continued provision of fire protection services within the entire fire district, including High Prairie. The county's motion to dismiss was granted, but the court did note in that opinion that this governing body would become the governing body of Fire District 1 on January 1 and had an obligation to provide for the governance of Fire District 1 as well as providing the fire protection services. That was the impetus of this body making sure that we could say in good faith that fire protection services were provided, and that is why the contracts were entered.
So there was no issue of negotiating. The issue was whether there was no issue of negotiating because the requirement for the commission is that fire protection be provided to High Prairie Township. We could not be assured that that would happen, so our choices were very limited at that time. Per council, we made the decision to contract with Lansing so that fire protection could be assured that it would be provided.
How can you make a decision?
Hold it. We're not talking out of turn. We'll recognize, Brian, I think this has gone, we've seen both sides, we've heard both sides. This is not going to get us anywhere. We're going to have some more conversation later on about this. But, Mike, if that's your last.
Yes, I just wanted to get it on the record that council was the reason we made the decision because we were counseled that way by our legal counsel.
And that's the end of that. Do you have anything else, Mike?
That's it.
I don't have anything. Vanessa?
Can you read these statutes off, please?
Vanessa?
Sure.
I yield my time.
Oh, you're getting uptown. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. KSA 8-1560, alteration of statutory maximum speed limits by local authorities. That's where that authority is given. KSA 8-1588 sets a maximum speed limit of 55 miles per hour for county and township roads. 8-1560 authorizes local authorities to determine the road's maximum speed and reduce or increase that speed up to 65 miles per hour. KSA 8-1560 Part H says counties may determine a road's maximum speed based on an engineering traffic investigation or without an engineering traffic investigation. The MUTCD, however, requires an engineering study to establish speed limits that vary from statutory speed limits. The MUTCD has been adopted by the state of Kansas as the official signing manual. So regardless of the language in KSA 8-1560 Part H to reduce the county liability, it is recommended to follow the MUTCD. In Kansas statute KSA 8-2003, the Secretary of Transportation adopts the signing manual, and so that is the statute that gives the authority to the Secretary of Transportation, and he has done that. The statute directs the Secretary to adopt a signing manual every time there's a new version. So it's pretty well articulated out in a number of statutes how to follow that process, and unless the state abandons the federal traffic manual, there is no other option other than having an engineering study done to complete the speed limit. And I was told downstairs that someone had pulled up the plans and that there was a design done on Fairmount Road for that improvement that did include some of the engineering design, and it was established at 35 miles an hour based upon the line of sight at several of the intersections.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else, Vanessa? Anything else? Okay.
And there's Commissioner Shimke entering the room.
Jeff?
Welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to go over the Senate Bill 108 just real quick.
Go ahead.
Just make sure we're all on the same page, because if you get a lot of questions from people like I am, I just want to make sure the commission is on the same page. So Senate Bill 108 basically is going after people who work in Leavenworth County, drive on our roads and bridges, but don't live here, so they don't pay any property tax. So there's only 33,000 property owners that pay property tax in Leavenworth County, but there's hundreds of thousands of people that use our roads that aren't paying for it. So what this bill is really going for is to lower property taxes for people that live here, because right now they're paying for all the roads and bridges and improvements and maintenance for the roads that people that don't live here are using to get to their job. That's what this bill is all about. There's several different versions of this bill, too. We presented one a couple years ago that was only 50% going to a property tax. There's a couple versions of this one. The one I like better is the one that does not even assess people that live here. So if you live in Leavenworth County, you won't even pay this income tax. This income tax is only 1% for people that don't live here. People that work here and use our roads and bridges to get to their job, but they don't pay any property tax. So that's the main goal of the Senate Bill 108, is to lower everybody that lives here's property taxes by getting the people that don't live here but use our roads to pay a little bit of income tax. And it's only 1%. So if somebody made $50,000 a year, they'd only be paying $500 a year. So it's not a lot, but it's a little bit from a lot of people, which is why it's so effective.
And offset's what we need to offset. Yeah.
The other thing in the bill, it's built in the bill, because people don't trust the government. I get it. I don't either. So even when it's good or a good bill or too good to be true, usually it is. But it's built in the bill. Every 5 years, it dies. So you actually have to re-vote every 5 years to keep it going. So if it wasn't working like they said it would work, then in 5 years it disappears anyway. It also says in the bill that it has to be used 100% toward reducing property tax. So it can't be just an added tax. A lot of people are saying, well, yeah, then I'm going to end up paying property tax and this on top of it. In the bill it says it has to be used. Whatever dollars are generated by this income tax reduces property tax that exact amount. So I don't know how to be more clear than that.
How is that controlled? Like, are there measures in there? Because that's some of the pushback I was getting, was there weren't defined enough measures.
For?
Like, if the commission says we're going to have to raise this much property tax, can it be played with to
the
still
1%,
generate?
I assume the 1% could be something different. If say it was working really well and it almost eliminated all property tax, bump it up to 1.5%, and then you completely replace property tax. I mean, the amount's up in the air right now.
Do you feel like it's similar to the Kansas City tax?
It's exactly like that, except I think they charge everybody.
Yeah.
I think the bill that was presented right now does include everybody living here and not living here, because they're going after trying to replace all the property tax. I think a better version would be don't tax people that live here, just tax people that don't live here. See how that works. And then I think what you're saying is you could adjust it.
Do you think it's going to make it out of committee? Do you think it's going to make it out of committee?
No, not a chance. But I'm just trying to get everybody to start thinking that direction, because this is the only way property taxes are going to get lowered in Leavenworth County. You can't use a property tax system. You have to switch some of that weight onto income tax or sales tax. We're over 50% property tax exempt. It doesn't even make any sense to use a property tax system. So you can chop the budget all you want. That's not the problem. It's the system is the problem.
Good question. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Mike?
So I just want to say I've been getting a lot of phone calls on the earnings tax, and while I understand the goal of it, and I understand you're getting it out on the table to be discussed, the fear among constituents is once the government gets their foot in the door with a 1% tax,
absolutely,
then it's a 2% tax, and it's a 3% tax, and it never goes away.
I get that's what I'm getting from everybody. That's what I mean. But they're not adding to that thought. But the property tax will go down. So if it does go to 2%, like Commissioner Reed's saying, you could adjust it, but your property tax is going to go down exactly that same amount as the income tax goes up.
Well, and then the other side that they're talking about is money is fungible. You can say that it's going toward, it has to go totally towards property tax relief, but the way money works
I totally get it. Look what they did with the lottery, the Kansas lottery.
Yep.
Do you guys remember when they passed Kansas lottery? They were advertising commercials on TV about lowering your school's budget. We're going to take all this lottery money and apply it to school boards. Do you remember that?
And we usually bring that up at school board meetings, like, where's that money?
And what happened today? Zero money goes from the lottery to schools. It goes toward mental health and the National Guard, I think. But zero goes to the school. How'd they do that? They passed it under the advertising that it would lower your school taxes because we'll use all this money for the schools, and then they just, over the years, phased that out. So I get it.
We've seen that before.
I get it. It's very hard. Even when a bill is a good one, it's hard for people to trust that. I get it.
Well, and just to flip back to the other issue, the Senate is going to be having a hearing on Monday on the House-passed version of their version of property tax relief, which is a averaging.
Rolling average.
A rolling average. It would go to the voters, but it goes to the voters with no set years on it. It just goes to you and says the legislature will establish a rolling average, and then you trust your legislators to come back and set what that number of years would be. They've talked about 7 years. I think the agricultural grant is 8 years. But it would be an average set by the legislature. So this would go to the voters. You wouldn't have any idea what kind of property tax relief this would give you because you don't know how many years the rolling average is. So on Monday, I'm going to go testify neutral testimony on this and ask them to amend the 3% cap to replace this rolling average. And we need to ask the Speaker of the House to allow a vote in the House on the 3% cap.
Yeah.
Which 26 states have a cap. Kansas does not. This is modeled a lot like the law in Florida. It's worked really well to keep the spikes down on folks' property tax increases yearly due to valuations. So we'd like to have a vote in the House, and it's pretty authoritarian to just say I'm not allowing a vote.
Yep.
And on top of that, too, Mike, your phone call matters. The last 2 years, we've seen more legislators or folks running for the legislation give us, say they're getting the message because more people are speaking up. So please continue asking questions. Right now, Leavenworth County is one of the few counties that's really suffering more than anybody because of what Commissioner Culberson said. We cannot continue to build bridges and stuff like that. We do not want to raise the mill levy. In fact, the only reason we raised it last year is because our roof was falling down. But people are going to have to get some relief, and it's up to those folks to do it. Give us something that we can work with. But also put in there at the bottom of it, it's just like on demand transfers, there needs to be something really strict, really written by people smarter than me, that says you cannot take this away unless this, and this happens. Not just say new legislators come in and they decide to vote and say, well, we've decided not to pay that back to the counties or the cities, and they don't do it. It has to be so tough that they can that we got something we can sink our teeth into.
Yep.
And I know we've gone on that before now, so we're moving right along. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 All right, very good. Okay, going to formal board action. Consider a motion to add a recycling category of municipal solid waste at a rate of $125 per ton determined by the county staff to the county's current rate sheet. Morning.
Morning. I second Mark's thank you for the pizza. Staff out there loved it, and thanks to HR for delivering it.
Yeah, HR was awesome. I really appreciate their help.
Okay, so we are just asking to add a lightweight material category in our fees. As you can see, we're losing money for big vehicles just bringing in cardboard. They fill our trailer. We have a 22-ton minimum that I have to pay for on our trailers. The cardboard fills it up. There's no weight. So whatever weight we can get in it, we do keep trying and smash it down, but we're just not making that. And since I am not mill levy funded, I have to pay my own way, so I have to figure out how to do that, and this is what the Solid Waste Committee came up with as a way to kind of help achieve that.
Basically, to pay your bills, you have to go up so you can pay them because you don't receive funding from the county on a mill levies.
Right.
Understand.
Tammy, this was a recommendation by your committee, right?
Correct.
Could you explain the membership on that committee real quick, just like who's represented on it, like private haulers and stuff?
Oh, okay. I didn't bring that list, but there's Mike Spickelmeyer from the city of Lansing. There's the private haulers are Brothers Disposal and GJ Disposal, who is like a truck and trailer operation. And is that what you mean?
Yeah, and then the other cities that are represented.
Oh, all the cities in Leavenworth County are represented by somebody.
On the board, yeah.
And I just want to point out that everything we do at the transfer station is straight cost pass-through. We don't make any money at the transfer station. Whatever it costs us, that's what we charge.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to add recycling category of municipal solid waste at a rate of $125 per ton determined by county staff to the county's current rate sheet.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Tam. Okay, next items. Thank you, Tam. Consider a motion to approve the financing agreement with Kansas State Bank for 2 dump trucks previously approved. Come on down again, Bill.
Commissioners, today for your consideration is a lease agreement. This lease agreement is a secondary agreement from a previously bid lease package for 2 dump trucks that the board approved last year. The last 2 cycles of dump truck replacements and the one that's upcoming are all under a lease program. We bid that lease program competitively, advertised it, had a couple bids. Nextran ended up being the low cost provider of those dump trucks that met specifications. Generally, when you lease equipment, which we do lease a lot of equipment here in the county, you end up with the lease payments going through the financial institution of the manufacturer. And so in these cases, we don't bid the percentage of interest that we are paying. We're bidding the low cost replacement of specifications. What secondary interest or lease agreement that these firms do find is their doing. And so this agreement is unlike most because in normal situations we would be working with John Deere Financial or Caterpillar Financial or one of the other major manufacturers, but MAC is the company that owns these trucks or was providing them, and they apparently either did not offer or had higher interest in this lease. They have provided us an agreement with Kansas State Bank. This agreement does not change the cost of the previously approved lease. The secondary option to this lease approval is to purchase these outright because we already physically have these and are using them for the last 45 days.
Questions? Yeah, Mike.
Where's Kansas State Bank based?
I believe it was in Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yes, Manhattan, Kansas.
It's a Kansas bank.
It is a Kansas bank. Kansas
Is this similar to where if you buy a new car, they're going to encourage you to use GMC credit? Or they're going to
Yes, there are incentives generally. We bid the leases. There are multiple ways that you can go about purchasing equipment, and we could purchase it outright and bid it. We could purchase it and then get a loan from a local bank if we wanted to do that, or we can purchase it as a lease, and in these leases we get government lease financing. This is what spurred our dump trucks from going from purchases to leases is they doubled in cost. They went from around $190,000 to $325,000 from 2020 to 2024. And so the cost of these this equipment has become very high very quickly. And so these come with we found that we were spending, I believe the analysis was over $200,000 in a 2-year period on repairs of the dump trucks. And these are all fairly new machines. And so what these leases offered was a full warranty and guaranteed replacement. And so we were able to eliminate the cost of those repairs by implementing this new government lease package. Previous to these cost increase, because of the hydraulics that are put on for the snow plows and the other equipment that's added to these trucks to make them municipal dump trucks, they had not been available for leases. You could only lease a standard dump truck that did not have the snow plow or any of the hydraulic attachments that you would generally see with a municipal truck. And so now they are offering government lease packages. We found it to be the most viable option at the time with the significant cost increases in our current county budget constraints. Be open to any suggestions you have in the future if you wanted to change that system, but we found this at the time to be the most cost effective.
Is there a readily available financial mechanism for including other financing possibilities like local banks?
We'd buy the equipment outright if you wanted to do that with a different warranty package and no guaranteed buyback. We'd have to make them surplus equipment and sell them on Purple Wave ourselves or some other auction site.
Which we just got away from.
And which is what we kind of got away from. We could always purchase equipment outright and then bid it through local financing institutions, just like you would go look for your personal car loan if you wanted to finance it. We could really take some hits on our equipment reserve funds and purchase them outright.
So if we have to purchase them outright, I wouldn't call that readily available. I'd say that through the process, we're using the lease process, having to make a purchase.
Yeah, we're not actually making a purchase. It creates a fixed cost for the board to consider as part of the budgetary process. It takes out the variables of maintenance, and so it's something that gives you guys a fixed cost when you're looking at the budgetary process.
I think the important thing to remember is these are bid as a package. So when we go out and bid them, we bid them as a lease package. So the vendors are looking at their total cost versus just one aspect of it. So they then go out and find the best financing they can. And this agreement that we're entering into is just basically this bank requires a separate agreement since we're paying the bill. But when we bid it as a total cost of ownership to try to level out the expenditures versus the big spikes that we would have if we were buying them individually.
The other thing that is worth noting is while the delivery time of these machines has become better, it is much better under a lease program because they are producing a certain number of these machines for this government lease program. So we've been able to get these in about a 12-month time frame. There was a period of time in 2023, I think we received some trucks that we had ordered 24 months prior, and they had increased the cost of purchasing those trucks after we had bid them. While the increase was less than the second bid that we had, it was still the price, whether you bid this or not, they don't necessarily guarantee those prices because their delivery time frames had gotten so out of whack that we weren't receiving these machines within even an 18-month time period. It was approximately 2 years from the time we ordered them to the time that they actually arrived.
I motion to approve the financing agreement.
Go ahead. If you would, Vanessa, would you put the amount in there, the 136, as far as the motion?
You have it ready?
Yeah, I have mine.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Motion to approve the financing agreement with Kansas State Bank for 2 dump trucks previously approved with the condition of 3 yearly payments of $136,163.56 per year for 3 yearly payments.
A motion, a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's finished. Thank you. Well, next item, please consider a motion to approve Resolution 2025-8, accepting the Safe Streets for All Vision Zero plan.
Commissioner, today for your
Thanks, Mike.
Adoption, we do have a resolution. This resolution, just for the new members here of the board today, is for our Safe Streets for All study. This study was approximately $300,000. It was paid for 80% by the federal government as part of a grant program, 10% by the state of Kansas, and 10% by Leavenworth County. And so what this did was it was a way more in-depth look at our roadway network and the different areas that we have the highest accident rates. We previously had done a local road safety plan with KDOT in 2019 to 2021. That study was approximately a $50,000 study, and they were doing 25 counties at the same time that they were doing Leavenworth County. That study, while it was accepted during that time period as a federally approved study, the rules changed. And so when the bipartisan infrastructure law was created, it included a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion aspects to infrastructure funding that you had to be able to articulate in a study. And so we applied for this study to be able to be eligible to apply for safety grants because you had to have that information of the socioeconomic status and diversity of the community and how you were going to serve that community as a part of a safety study. And so while I believe that may be eliminated currently, or that may have already been eliminated as part of the future grant applications, we still would have had to have this study in place prior to applying for federal funds. It appears that program hasn't ended. I checked yesterday, and their website had been updated in the last 30 days, so it appears that program will remain in place. There is a call for projects as a part of that program coming at the end of the month that we will apply for federal funding for based upon this study if it's adopted here today. I believe they've taken out the economic or the socioeconomic information from that application process, but regardless, that is a very small portion of this study. This study has highlighted and has heat maps and accident crash data for all of our high-risk areas in the county. And if you specifically look back in the appendixes, there are some very good maps that show the actual location of those accidents as reported by the Kansas Highway Patrol and the Leavenworth County Sheriff's Department. So you can really pinpoint where these accidents are happening and what their cause is. What was found during this study is we have a disproportionately high number of motorcycle accidents and fatality and injury accidents related to motorcycles in Leavenworth County, and we have a lot of ATV accidents, and we have a fairly average but still significant number of DUI type accidents that result in fatality and injuries. And so if you just look at our regular pedestrians that are sober, that are driving in vehicles, our accident rate is probably below the state average. But if you include those motorcycles, ATVs, and ones that people are impaired in the accidents, we have a disproportionately high number of those type of accidents. What we lack in a lot of cases is clear zone in recovery areas. When you have steep shoulders, you have a tendency for rollover accidents. And when you have lane departures on a motorcycle, I think we have a very high motorcycle traffic count in the county. I think a lot of people from Johnson County, Wyandotte County, even Jefferson County, and Atchison County, they like to come to Leavenworth County and ride. We have a lot of paved roads that aren't very high traffic, and we get a lot of these secondary roads with motorcycle traffic, and a lot of those accidents occur at night. So when you're on an unfamiliar roadway on a motorcycle at night, your chances of an accident raise substantially. We also have an aging population in some of the areas of the county, and you are statistically more likely to be in an accident over the age, I believe it was of 70, than you are as a new driver at the age of 15. So age plays a factor, but we didn't have we didn't have a high rate of
Why'd you look at me, Bill?
accidents. I was looking over here, Jeff.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I must have caught my corner of my
Yeah,
eye.
I saw what you're doing.
So, if you have any questions about this, I'd be happy to try to answer them here today. Obviously, we have these downstairs. They still say draft until it's been adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. I can get anybody a copy of this in a bound format if they want a hard copy after we have the draft stamp removed from it.
So can you go over, for the new commissioners and maybe for the audience, sort of the numbers of when you've applied for grants in the past, how much money we've received for grants for the county for completing road projects, and on top of that, tell us how this will help us to get additional grants.
So, to date, we've received in the 5 years that I've been here approximately $65 million of guaranteed funds, with the availability of that to increase substantially. There has been a known statement regarding the K5 corridor project that we were successful in championing and getting Ike funding for. That could triple in cost because they did not announce that at a very high rate that would nearly complete the scope that they had said that the project would be. So we have guaranteed $65 million in funding, and with the potential of that becoming as much as $120 million if they did the entire K5 corridor realignment. What that study will produce and ultimately lead to construction is unknown at this time. It probably won't be known until the end of 2025. And they'll determine a corridor that they're going to use and what that improvement's going to include. And at that point, they'll have a good true cost estimate. This specific study will allow us to try to apply for implementation dollars for construction projects at high-risk accident locations. Those projects could range in cost from just a few $1 million to $15 or $20 million if we bundle or do entire corridors. I believe the federal government is probably looking for projects in that $10 million range with at least 20% local match. So we will be looking at what projects score the best at whatever their scoring criteria comes out. They will issue a NOFO, a Notice of Funding Opportunity, and within that Notice of Funding Opportunity, there'll be a scoring matrix. Whether they actually give you the scoring matrix or it's just kind of found within the language of it of what they're looking for, we will look at what projects we have that the board has showed interest in the past that we can apply for funding for. And so more than likely, we'll look at our top 3 locations, which is 158th Street and going north or south of K32, Golden Road, and 155th and Fairmount going east, towards K7. So currently in your CIP, you have the Fairmount Road improvements with some cost share funding if a grant became available. So we'll probably really look at that location.
Okay, anything else on this one? I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve Resolution 2025-9. Oh, excuse me. Wrong line. Consider a motion to approve Resolution 2025-8, accepting the Safe Streets for All Vision Zero plan.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Roll call, Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Aye. All righty.
All right, thanks, Commissioner.
Thanks, Bill. Moving on to the next item D, consider a motion to approve Resolution 2025-9, altering the boundaries of rural Fire District Number 1 of Leavenworth County, Kansas, hereinafter Fire District Number 1, by detaching the city of Lansing from Fire District Number 1.
Commissioners, you have before you a resolution to alter the boundaries of rural Fire District Number 1 by detaching the city of Lansing from the Fire District. So just to give a bit of background on this, on February 11th, the city of Lansing presented a petition to the county clerk seeking this action. I think, as we all know, the fire district was formed in 2003 based on the parties, the city of Lansing, Delaware Township, and High Prairie Township, coming to the commission to form the fire district. They subsequently entered into an interlocal agreement to govern for that with the county. A board of trustees was appointed to govern the day-to-day operations of the fire district, and essentially state statute had authorized fire districts like this to levy up to 9 mills to pay for a fire district. It's my understanding that the parties in the fire district had each paid in approximately 9 mills based on their valuation to fund the operation of the fire district. There's been a lot of concern and discussion and confusion over the years regarding Fire District Number 1. I know you all have, some of you have lived through it. Others are new to this commission. But one of the overarching themes that I've seen over the last few years is just a general confusion on whether or not the parties could get out of the interlocal agreement. Confusion as to what would happen after the interlocal agreement had ended. And then there was general confusion as to the powers of this board. I believe about a year ago there was some discussion and thought that the Board of County Commissioners could just unilaterally end the fire district. We know that's not the case. There was also some confusion that the Board of County Commissioners could also redraw the boundaries of the fire district of their own choice. That is also not the case. State statute provides that in order to redraw the boundaries, a petition is required by the owners, by 10% of the owners in the land seeking to be withdrawn or added to the fire district. And state statute also has specific provisions that has to be set out in the petition, such as not only do you have to have the legal description of the land, you have to have the address listed of those who are actually signing the petition because they have to live inside the county. So I'm bringing this up just to try and address some of the questions that are out there. But ultimately, on February 11th, Lansing did, in fact, present a petition that was sufficient based on the statutory requirements to redraw the boundaries of Fire District 1 by removing themselves from Fire District 1. So the process that, in order to proceed on this, staff did look at it, verified that the provisions of state statute were met. So the next step is to bring this resolution in front of the commission, and if it is approved today, this resolution, along with the map showing what the boundaries would look like, will be published twice in the Leavenworth Times, once each week for 2 consecutive weeks, and then there's a 30-day protest petition. If no protest petition is filed, the soonest this could come back in front of the commission is April 30th, and at that point, the commission could vote to formally declare the new boundaries of Fire District 1. However, if 19% of those who own land within Fire District 1, or the city of Lansing particularly, file a protest petition, then the action is just stopped, and there's nothing further to proceed on. So this is what is before you today. I'm open to any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions? If not,
question for council. We have 2 trailer motions on different parts of the fire district here. Would it be prudent to wait on this until we've acted on the other one, or is it okay to separate these?
Look, you do have to consider them separately. They are 2 separate petitions. And, what would be published in the paper is going to be separate. It's not a joint petition in order to withdraw from it. So you are going to have to do both separately. And then there's considerations. The statute is somewhat, they tell you what to look for in the petition, but looking at what one considers when you're deciding on this is you're looking at why you go back to why was the fire district formed in the first place, and it was to promote the public health, welfare, and safety. So when you're looking to withdraw a petition, questions that the commission may choose to ask is there provisions for fire protection services within the area seeking to be withdrawn? In the case of Lansing, they have established their own city fire department. The county commission, as the board of the fire district, contracted with them to provide fire protection services within the entire Fire District 1. And it's been evidence that they have been responding to the calls. So you can see that they have adequate measures in place to provide fire protection services to the city of Lansing. You can also look at the financial aspects. Is there any harm to the fire district or the county as a whole, but particularly the fire district, with allowing Lansing to withdraw? They have funded their own provision of fire protection services within the city of Lansing. There's no outstanding debt owed by the city of Lansing to Fire District Number 1. But the decision as to whether or not to allow them to alter. This is a policy decision. It's up to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff does not, I've seen nothing in there that would prohibit proceeding in this manner, but that question is ultimately up to the commission.
Okay. I move that we approve Resolution 2025-9, altering the boundaries of Rural Fire District Number 1 of Leavenworth County, Kansas, herein Fire District Number 1, by detaching the city of Lansing from Fire District Number 1.
Have a motion, we have a second. I'll second it. Any more discussion? No, I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Okay, it's completed. Okay. E is consider a motion to approve Resolution 2025-10, altering the boundaries of Rural Fire District Number 1 of Leavenworth County, Kansas, here in Fire District Number 1, being detached in High Prairie Township from Fire District Number 1. Before we go any further with that, I've got something I know High Prairie, y'all been going down this road with us, and we're tired of it too, but something was brought to my attention this morning, so I need to make a motion to table attachment. There are a number of unanswered questions regarding the effects of detaching High Prairie Township from Fire District 1 at this time. There are questions regarding the fire protection that will be provided to citizens of High Prairie Township on and out after April 1st. There are questions about the financial obligations owed to Fire District 1 for services that have been provided. And there are questions about whether or not a contract is needed with High Prairie Township if they are going to provide fire protection services while they're still Fire District 1. I move this to table this matter until March 26, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 No.
No.
Okay. Passes 3-2. Get that still resolved.
Could we potentially,
It depends. What?
That's what the question is.
Brian, there's things in this that will not, I can tell you it's not going to cause you guys any problems, but I've got to get some answers of things that just came up, and the board has not been briefed on it, and that's the only reason. I want this out of our hands too. But let's hold up. But I think it'd be in your benefit from what I'm seeing so far. That's why I'm asking to have this done.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner. However, you're also charging us $34,000 to $36,000 a month while this delays every time. Secondly, what process did the predecessor to your council now look to see that we did not have adequate equipment, personnel, and funding to run our department? Number one. Number two, how can you approve Lansing and not prove us? Is there no one that questions Lansing's credibility? I have to this board in writing regarding their staffing, the equipment, the coverage of all of Fire District Number 1, which none of you have. You just passed 3-2 on and didn't bring that up. What is their staffing? How are they going to be able to meet the calls? How many calls have they been primary on responding? How much has been provided by mutual aid? You didn't take any of that into consideration, but you just passed Lansing. That is unfair, unjust, and unethical of this board to do so.
Well,
we have a petition.
Brian, hold on. No, you hold on. You hold on. It's not unethical. If you knew some of the questions I got hit with, you wouldn't be saying that to me. Now make your point.
I'm making my point.
But don't insult this board or
anybody else. Facts.
We just tabled it.
We just tabled it.
I understand we're tabling it. Now we also have a petition.
And we've acknowledged that.
The second petition that has allowed us to form our own fire department. That has passed. Has been certified by your board, by the county clerk. So we are, as of April 1st, we will be our own department, whether this county commission states viable or not. Remember that. And if you are pushing for us to pay a contract and keep delaying this process to get more money for us to buy a truck for Lansing, if that's your intention, Mr. Commissioner, then that is not fair.
That is nowhere clear. You throw these allegations. Well, you need to have a seat now. You've made your statement.
That's what I'm doing.
I'm good. Okay, moving on. Presentation discussions.
After the executive session.
Yeah, let's do the executive session first.
I move the board recess for a closed executive meeting for discussion of subjects involving the legal interests of the county and confidential matters related to potential claims and litigation as justified by KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with legal counsel which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and that the board resume open meeting at 10:40 in the meeting room of the board. President of the executive meeting will be Commissioners Mike Smith, Jeff Culberson, Vanessa Reed, Willie Dove, Mike Stephen, County Councilor Misty Brown, Deputy County Councilor John Khalil, and County Administrator Mark Lawfrey.
Second.
Motion second. Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 Aye. We're in executive session. Yeah.
The board has returned to regular session at 10:40 a.m. No action was taken, no decision was made. The subject was limited to the legal interests of the county.
All right, one statement. Since High Prairie Township has formed its own township fire department, I would like to request that the sheriff release pagers to High Prairie Township. If the staff could make that known.
And have them programmed accordingly. So.
Well, let's formalize that in this form of a motion.
Okay.
So I second.
Okay.
Or Willie seconds.
Okay, any comments? Okay. Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Okay, now moving on to presentation and information on phase two. There's so much of this building.
Good morning, Commissioners. What we have before you and what you saw in your packet was the matrix that the architectural firm put together on options for phase two, which is the masonry work of the outside of the courthouse. We requested two options that were both historically accurate and would qualify for the 30% tax credit. We were also asked to have a non-historical tax credit option. The non-historical tax credit came in, and losing the historical tax credits on that pushed that estimate above where your 30% return tax credits would be. What we plan to do with direction from you guys is bid a two-option bid, which is one with terracotta, which is the original substrate for the outside of the courthouse, as well as a GFRC option, which would be an alternate. Those two both qualify for the historical tax credits, which will allow you to keep the historical tax credit on the roof as well as on the outside of the building. With your direction, that's the way we are leaning to go because it will be ultimately the cheapest. Questions?
I didn't get a copy of that. What are the costs?
It was attached in your package, sir.
I don't
think
we didn't get it.
I don't think I saw it either.
You can keep it. I've already looked at it.
Have you looked at it?
With the non-terracotta
I didn't.
way to do it be longer lasting,
Thank you.
lighter weight material.
The GFRC.
GFRC lasts longer.
The GFRC does, if you look at, we also asked them to put pros and cons together on both options, the terracotta as well as the GFRC. The GFRC has maintenance with it that will occur more frequently than the terracotta, but we also plan to be in a preventative state after we complete the outside and have regular inspections of the outside facade of our facility. So either choice, I feel either myself or a predecessor will be able to maintain the outside of your courthouse to a beautiful status as long as we don't let it deteriorate to the point where we did on current status.
Okay, and you're recommending the full terracotta replacement?
What I am recommending, sir, is a bid with a build alternate, so that way you guys can understand that both substrates that are tax credit worthy would be bid. So you would have a bid for a terracotta with a bid alternate of the GFRC, both which would apply for tax credits and a savings of 30%. And from there, once we receive our bids back, we can make a more qualified decision on pricing and how you would like to spend taxpayers' money.
So, okay.
Basically, what we're looking for today is a consensus of direction that you would like us to proceed with a bid and a bid alternate, and to abandon the idea of going a non-tax credit version.
This maintains a historical character of the building as far as the state is concerned.
As far as your
And the
tax
federal.
credits concerned, the GFRC and the terracotta both qualify for your 30% tax rebate. The non-historical does not, which is the way that it would push you above on cost. Do I believe those costs are fairly accurate? Yes, we received them from the architectural firms as they reached out to general contractors. Do I believe that I'm hoping that we have competitive bidding and both of those go down, but I would like to bid in option one with an alternate. We've spoken with Trainer. They're very familiar with putting a package together of a primary with an alternate. They have done it in their last couple, one based out of Texas, and they shared that information with us.
Okay, and I'm just, last week when I was at Senator Moran's office, they did help Hodgman County with funding, which was congressionally appropriated funding. They're not sure what otherwise known as earmarks. They're not sure where we're at on earmarks right now for next year, but if there's a possibility, their office is willing to help us get consideration for that. But my own personal position is we should keep it as a historical building.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I agree. With that price tag, holy cow. Anyway, any other questions for him?
Well, it's cheaper to keep it as a historic.
Cheaper to keep her?
Right?
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
I'm not going to answer that.
So with that understanding, you would like us to proceed with the option and an alternate option and abandon the idea of a non-historic version, correct?
Yes. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Thank
One.
you.
Thank you.
Terracotta, right?
Terracotta and GFRC.
Yes.
Bid those two options.
Cheapest and the best. The best is the cheapest.
Okay.
Thanks, Aaron.
That's on you.
Thanks, Aaron. Now let's go around the horn. Mr. Stephen, you have anything?
I'll give more of a report on the trip. There was quite a lot of information on that, but I'm sure you don't want to hear it all when we have people waiting. But on the 20th, I'm going to be speaking at the Elephant Club, and I'll cover a lot of the stuff from the trip. So
Very good. Just a couple. I attended along with Commissioner Dove, attended the Baser State of the City. Very well done. A lot of growth. Also, just a reminder that in a few weeks we've got the conference coming up from the commissioners. It's going to be in Manhattan. You should have got an invite. If you're going to attend, please let Becky know, because the host hotel will run out quickly, and you have to be walking or doing something like that. So please let her know. I'm already signed up, so if any other county commissioner would like to attend, please let her know. Commissioner Dove, do you have anything?
Not the report to the committee, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reed?
I believe that today there is a state of the KCATA at Children's Mercy Park.
yeah,
So I plan to attend
I'm
that.
not- that's good.
Anything else? You sure?
You sure about that?
Anything?
You want me to
Come on,
talk
Joe.
longer?
No, I just thought there was one other thing you wanted.
I will say that I appreciate that we do the moment of silence at the meetings. I am a PK, a preacher's kid. My dad started his own church when I was about 12 and did that until he absolutely physically couldn't anymore. And so it might be more personal to me than others, but I really like in-person prayer. I think it could be great to have that at the beginning of the meetings. So I just didn't know if the commissioners would support. I'm happy to handle that personally. I'm happy to cast a wide net.
I think we need to probably discuss this next week. When I was the interim down in Oswego, while they're looking for a full-time one, there are some things that you can do. We can definitely do it, but there's some things you need to be cautious of. So I'd like to sit that on the agenda.
Okay.
That's all right, and everybody else for us to discuss down the line.
One comment on that. We changed, I believe it was either last year or the year before.
A year ago.
We changed from a moment of silence to a moment of silent prayer,
Yeah.
is what we call it. The only issue I see, and I have a constituent that is a member of the Satanic Church, the Grotto, and if you open it up to the Baptists and the Presbyterians and the Methodists, you're also opening it up to the other religious sects, because we're...
That's why I wanted to see this on the agenda for next week, so we can have an open discussion. I think we can get there. We just got to make sure we know what we're getting into.
It doesn't really, intimidate me, I guess. We just saw what they did at the Capitol as well, so I will try to research that over the next week and see how we would do.
Good.
Thank you.
I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure we all understand what we're getting into. Okay.
I don't have anything other than the parade's Monday, right? Monday.
Are you driving your truck or are you driving your
I'm going to drive my old truck if anybody wants to ride with me.
I'm going to take a break. Last time I got on that thing, you dumped me out.
You rode with me.
You driving a truck?
F-57 Chevy.
You better get in the front.
He fell out of the back.
Because he'll lose you in the back.
Okay, I'll take the front.
Okay.
Age before beauty.
We'll just meet. We'll just meet in the parking lot about 9 o'clock. What time is the parade? 11?
Yeah, you got to be at 9:30 or so because you don't have anywhere to park now.
Yeah,
so you probably can go straight to the position to get there. You guys have fun.
Well, I'll be out here if anybody wants to ride.
It will be backed up out here.
Yeah.
Since we're open that day, the parking spots will already be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So I'll be parked out there about 9 with 6 grandkids in the back. You won't miss it.
Just about 100 yards from Lansing. That's okay. We can get in line. Okay, anything else, Commissioner?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
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 Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes because some of us are old. So we'll start the work session. I know we've been holding you out, but give us just about 5 minutes.